Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today we have our good friend, Guy Cisternino, coming all the way from New Jersey. And Guy, we got the Arnold Classic coming up this weekend. I didn't think I was actually going to see you in the lineup, to be honest with you. Was this a last-minute decision?
Well, it wasn't a last-minute decision. I started prep in a really fucked up way because I was about 238 pounds when I was going to start prep. And the week of Christmas, I caught that nasty flu that was going around, and it ripped me down from 238 pounds all the way down to 214. I was actually had to drive myself to the hospital because I couldn't stop throwing up. So I actually only started prep on January 1st. So I only had 8 weeks to prep for this show. So I was on the verge of almost not doing it. I haven't really done an 8-week prep in my life. Normally 10, 12 weeks is what I need. And I fucking killed myself to get in shape for this show. And up until Friday of last week, I was up in the air. But something from Wednesday to Thursday, my body just did a 180. And I went from like to like just all of a sudden shrink wrap, like, and just got peeled. I don't know what the fuck happened overnight. But yeah, I got the thumbs up on Friday to go ahead and rock and roll. I mean, it hasn't been an easy road. I went through a lot of other stuff personally and physically getting ready for this show, and I almost backed out a couple of times, but I just tried to keep pushing through and working through everything. And by the grace of God, I was ended up to pull it out and pull it through.
You love the drama, though. You love, even Chris said it, you like to have like all kinds of craziness going on in your life because it seems to motivate you more, doesn't it?
I mean, it's I'm a big advocate in, no matter what happens in life, there's always a way around it. I mean, I started with the flu, and then midway through, I was having a lot of shoulder issues. Got an MRI on my back because my back had been killing me since my car accident. I knew I had 2 herniations, so they did an MRI on my back and my shoulder weeks ago. The doctor said, orthopedic surgeon said my left shoulder is about as good as a 70-year-old man. And he said I have 2 herniations. I got bulges in my discs. I have fissures in my discs. So I got to get stem cells in my shoulder and my back at the end of March. And then on Monday, I actually ended up having another allergic reaction out of fucking nowhere. Last Monday, had to go to the dermatologist again. They called it a fixed drug eruption, which they said could be vitamin E, could be vitamin C, it could be anything that you're taking. They even said it could be as far as the quinine that's in fucking tonic water of Pellegrino. So they're doing a lot of research to figure out what it is I'm ingesting that's causing that reaction. But because I haven't been in a tanning bed, I didn't get burned. I just had a rash. So the rash went away in 24 hours. And then I had injections in my back the week prior to that, but they were supposed to do it in a surgery center, but they couldn't because the surgery center was booked up. So he did it in an office with a guided ultrasound, but he said my lower back was so thick he couldn't really see what he was doing. So he tried to do his best. So he didn't do it because my back was still killing me. So then Thursday I had to go to a surgery center, go under anesthesia, get the injection. So, I mean, it was one fucking thing after another. I mean, I just couldn't catch a break.
How old are you now?
35.
You're 35. You go to the emergency room more than any human being that I absolutely know. For a healthy guy, you're always in the emergency room. I
got the fucking worst luck, Dave, of any human being I fucking know.
Now, you're 35, okay? I was in your situation 15 years ago. I just turned 50. Take a very hard look at me because you're going to be me in 15 years. You're going to have shoulder replacements and you're going to be Ronnie Coleman undergoing back surgery. So you better enjoy yourself over the next 5 to 10 years because you're going to be suffering like a dog later in life, my friend.
Am I going to have sexy black hair and white teeth? I'll be happy.
All right, let's talk about the show. You're going to make it to the show. I know you because you're relentless and you're tenacious. This is it's a smaller lineup. I think there's only 6 guys in the event, but every guy there is a guy who's very dangerous. Obviously, we haven't really gotten a look at Kamal Elgargni. As you know, he works with your coach, Chris Cisternino. He has to be kind of the unknown factor in this lineup, but you know everyone else. You've competed against everyone else. You've beaten a lot of the guys in this lineup. What do you think you're gonna see up on this stage, and how do you think you'll do this coming weekend?
Well, this these guys, everybody here, I've beaten. I've beaten Jose. I've beaten Dave. I've beaten Charles Dixon multiple times. So I've beaten the guy from Korea. The two guys I haven't competed against, I haven't beaten. I haven't really competed against them to really know. But the one thing that I can say is that Jose's got that freaky branch Warren, gnarly muscle graininess to him. He doesn't have the best shape. David Henry comes in peeled, but the knock on David for years has been his legs. The only thing I could say that I got going for me is I probably got the most complete physique on stage.
Now, obviously, that counts for a lot. And like I said, I think everyone matches up really well in this lineup. There's no guys that you're going to say, oh, this guy blows away the field. And there's no guys that suck in the lineup either. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons, especially since it's a small lineup. Do you prefer a small lineup like this to like maybe 15 or 20 people?
Yeah, because what happens is when you have 15, 20 people, you can get a lot of guys with a lot of similarities. So you can compare guys like David and Ashkenani that are similar in the fact that they don't have the best legs, but they got crazy upper body, crazy muscle mass. And then you have a show like this where everybody's different. You got David, who's got a crazy upper body, not the best legs. Jose's got crazy muscle. He lacks the chest development. He comes in hard. If he's at 100%, he's very hard to beat. Charles Dixon probably has the most muscle of anybody on stage, but he kind of misses his mark when it comes to conditioning. Those are pretty much the guys that I'm looking at that are probably going to be the ones I'm going to be battling with. And as long as I'm at 100% and I bring the conditioning I always bring, that it's going to be literally apples, oranges, pears, and fucking cherries on stage. It's going to come down to the judge's preference and what they want that day of the show, because you're not going to be comparing apples to apples anymore. You're going to really have to pick. Some judges like a bigger muscular physique. Some judges like symmetry and aesthetics. Some judges like freaky legs and don't really care about upper bodies, and vice versa. So it's going to be a toss-up.
Yeah. Obviously, we talked last after the New York Pro. You had a really bad experience there with the allergic reaction or whatever happened. You wound up in the hospital. You couldn't finish the show. Is this redemption for you? Is this something that you've been thinking about this since that bad experience and wanting to get back on a stage and really, show that you're your best?
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole show and everything I've gone through the past, 6-7 months, and me being able to pull this out, just being on that stage and looking the way I do, that's a testament to who I am as a person. I mean, people, I say this to people, and you'll agree with me, and people think when I say it, I even say, oh, Dave said it to me in the past. They think that it's a knock when I tell them. I'm like, I got the worst fucking genetics in the 212. I was like, I have to work for every fucking inch that I have on my physique, and I kill myself for everything I have. There's a lot of guys that don't have to put in the amount of effort and dedication I have to do to get into shape. And there's guys that if they're 2% off, they can still pull out a win. If I'm 2% off, I'm not fucking winning. And I know that. I know that for a fact. I'm not one of these guys that can leave a little gap to not be 100% and pull it off. And I have to make sure that I'm 110% in order to be competitive against the top guys in the sport. And, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a confident thing when you're going against Jose that's won the Arnold, David that's won the Olympia, and you've beaten those guys. So I'm not going into the show where there's like a Flex or an Eduardo or an Ashkenani, and I'm like, I've never fucking beat these guys. I'm going to show knowing I've beaten every fucking dude on that stage, so there's no reason why I can't do it again.
No, and I think that's a very good mental attitude to have going into a show, because you have to believe that you could win, or you might as well not even do the show at the level you're at least. I'm not talking about guys that are just getting their feet wet in regional shows at this point. You have to go in confident and believe it, because sometimes it's the guys that believe that actually come out and shock everyone. I think Dexter Jackson has won more shows that he believed he could win that maybe other people didn't believe than any other competitor in the history of our sport, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, this sport, Dave, me and you have talked I've known you, Jesus, since 2007, 11 years I've known you. I mean, you've seen me on my ups, my good moments, my bad moments, my ups, my downs.
Sure.
I'm not a bodybuilder back in the day that people would even thought of, would win a show or compete in the Olympia. And, I've done a lot, with the cards I was dealt, with genetics, and the only thing I have that I can really hang my hat on is just my work ethic, and I preach that to everybody, because everybody, I get a lot of emails from fans talking about, they don't have they don't have genetics or this, and it does. I tell them it doesn't. Genetics only get you so far in life. Sometimes it's just strictly about hard work and dedication, and if you put your mind to something, the mind's probably the most powerful thing that you have in your life, and if you can get a hold of your mentality and have a headstrong attitude, you can really accomplish something. And I mean, Chris Aceto, even on Wednesday, after I trained legs, I sent him pictures. He told me to skip the show. And then Thursday morning, like, holy fuck, what the hell happened overnight? I said, I don't know.
Yeah, Chris wasn't too confident when we did the radio show that you were going to be in the show. And then he said things kind of changed very quickly. Let me switch gears for a minute. I know you were over the winter break here. You were at a gun show. What was all that about?
Well, see, a lot of guys kind of wait until they're retired and they don't have, anything to really fall back on. And as you know, my dad owned the hunting and fishing shop for 15 years. I'm a butcher by trade. I hunt, I fish, I own a lot of guns. I shoot bows, I do the whole nine. And, since, getting, closer with Branch and Tony Sentmanat and John Bartolo and the guys that are involved in the tactical world, even the guy, Jason and Melinda, their owners of Falcor, I've been dealing with them a lot. Hazard 4 Bags, Tops Knives. I was on a backdrop of Tops Knives at SHOT Show. So I'm trying to just expand my horizon and not just have a tunnel vision as to bodybuilding is the only avenue to make money. Once bodybuilding's over, I'll still be involved in the industry as much as I possibly can. But, shooting guns and bows and being involved in another industry that I know a lot about is another outlet that I can utilize in order to make money after my bodybuilding career is over. So I went out to SHOT Show, met a lot of guys, had a lot of meetings, and I'm just trying to expand my horizon. So when I am retired, I can do other things besides maybe just go back to teaching or working a 9 to 5. I don't put down anybody that works a 9 to 5. I did it for years. I've been blessed to have Centurion Labs and to have, Atomics and Gas and a lot of good sponsors that support me and pay me what they pay me and live the life that I'm living. But, I'm not also ignorant, because that could be gone in the blink of an eye. You could break a leg. You could get into a bad car wreck. You could have something internally wrong with you, as we saw last year with a lot of the guys that passed away. So you really never know when your bodybuilding career is going to be up. And I don't want to be one of those guys that's caught with a blind eye and left with nothing to fall back on. Even though I have a history degree and I could always go back to teaching, the way, the education and the schooling departments are now is all technology and iPads. And I'm not a tech savvy person. I'm a big pen and paper guy. So I don't foresee myself ever really teaching again, because that passion for teaching from all the technology nowadays kind of really faded for me. So I'm just trying to expand my horizons and just have other opportunities that present themselves to me as, I get older.
I think, first of all, it's a great idea to have multiple streams of income. I tell people that all the time, especially as, like you said, you're getting to the end of your career. You want to definitely branch off, and you want to do things that you actually like. I know you like hunting and shooting and all that stuff, and so that's right up your alley. And I always tell people, find another passion. I love animals, and I'm breeding snakes and reptiles now. And you know what? It starts out as a hobby, but then it becomes it can become a business if you put enough time and effort into it. I think it's a great idea that you're doing that. Have you ever gone hunting with Branch with the dogs and the knives? And I
was supposed to a few times, but the few times I was down there when we were supposed to go hog hunting, it rained. And just like when you deer hunt, when it rains and the weather's not good, they bed down, which means they just lay down. They don't move in shitty weather because animals are very instinctual, and that when it's raining or the weather's bad or it's really windy, they'll bed down because they don't have a sense of what's around them when the weather's bad, or they can't sniff things out and they can't use their senses. So they'll just bed down in a thicket and they won't move. And boars do the same thing. If it's nasty weather out, they're not going to move. So it's really hard to hunt them when they're bed down. So I haven't yet, but me and Branch have been talking about setting something up after the competitive year's over.
What's your favorite gun?
I have a Glock Gen 4. I have a Falcor AR, which I absolutely fucking love. And then when I hunt shotgun, I use I love a 270, but I also really enjoy shooting a 7mm mag shotgun as well.
Really? And what about bows? What do you use in bows?
I have a dart right in my basement. It's an older compound bow, but it's a dart that I've had for years, and I absolutely love shooting it.
Do you worry when you hunt with bow that you might not kill the animal, and that you might not hit it in the right spot, and then you have to
I mean, it's just like that with a gun. I mean, people think because you shoot a gun, it's dead accurate, but people don't realize you can hit a fucking twig, and that you can ricochet that bullet with just by hitting a twig in the tree. So, the only difference with a bow is you have to take a closer shot. I mean, normally, a 30 to 40-yard shot with the compound bow is far, whereas, with a gun, you can shoot within 100 yards, but, you still have to gauge the velocity, and, the bullet does, drop as distance goes. So it's just as hard to hit a deer with a gun as it is with a bow, because you have to take a lot of the things into consideration, like wind, where you're shooting into, if you're shooting in the thicket, if there's anything in the way, because one little variable can change the whole dimension of your shot.
Interesting. And where did you learn how to do all this? Your dad?
Yeah, I've been hunting since I was 9 years old, and my dad owned a hunting and fishing shop. I mean, I grew up working in his shop, making bowstrings, making arrows, shooting compound bows, shooting recurves, going pheasant hunting, going deer hunting, going to PA hunting. I mean, people think Jersey, and the first thing they think is like the Jersey Shore dirtbags. But I grew up in the country in Jersey. Like I live right now, where I live on 2 acres of land. You walk out my front door, I got a wraparound porch. The only thing you can see is farms and cows around me. Like that's the shit that's what I like. And I don't like being in the, in the city life. I like being in, kind of this urban area, where there's not a lot of shit around me,
Mm-hmm. What now? A lot of people didn't know that you were a history teacher. I remember you were, but if you had to pick one historical period that like you really can relate to and it resonates with you and that is the most fun for you to talk about, what would that be?
I would say the World Wars and like World War I and II and the Civil War, because there's always so much debate on what was the main cause of the Civil War. You got people that say slavery, and there's debates on that. It's just really cool to see the debates and people's opinions on the wars and what caused them, and how things came to be, and how slavery ended. And I just like the wars, and the what do you call it, the back then the strategies of winning war, it was very intricate, because now we have all this technology in our military background. Well, back then we didn't have all this technology, so everything that they planned out was very intricate and mapped out and written down, and we didn't have all this technology where we could see who's aiming missiles at us or who's doing this, and it wasn't like that. So I find that very intriguing, the way wars were fought back in the day as opposed to how they're fought now.
Who was your favorite general in the Civil War?
Ooh.
Who was the best one, you think? Either side.
General. Oh, man. If I had to pick one. I got to think, because there's a lot. You got to come back to me. All
right. Well, let me, a lot of people say Robert E. Lee, even though he was on the losing side, they said he was the best strategist. But
General Lee was very good. He probably was the best strategical general of all time.
Right. So, but he was obviously on the wrong side of the war. What do you, in your estimation, caused? What do you think caused the Civil War? Was it slavery?
I believe it was slavery. Yes.
Okay. What are some of the other theories?
People think it had to do with import and exports too. I mean, you can go back and forth. I mean, Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people say that his presidency was a big turning point of the Civil War. I mean. Robert E. Lee was a great general. I mean, but then you got guys that you can turn around and you can say, a big person that I always did a lot of research on was Ulysses Grant. I mean, I thought he was amazing. He was an amazing general. But I mean, you got guys like what's his name, George McClellan was another general.
Right. Sherman down there.
There was a ton of guys that you could go back and See, and there's guys that probably weren't even really in the history books that I learned about in college that did a lot, like Winfield Scott. I mean, there were so many guys. I mean, even Abraham Lincoln was a general himself.
Yeah. Now, you see, the interesting thing is, the reason I brought this out is because I'm trying to figure out the whole beard thing, and I realized, Guy, when you mentioned history, you look like you belong in the Civil War. I think that you might have been reincarnated because you like to hunt, you use guns, you like knives and bows, and now you have that beard. You look like you could probably be in one of these reenactment scenes that they have.
I might not reenact, but I sure as shit could kill a motherfucker in 2 seconds.
Guy, always a pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck this weekend. I hope you really come out with a top 3 finish and or better. And keep us informed. We'll get you back.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate RXMuscle. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, and that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.